So a couple days ago I was going through my fabric stash, just like sorting, cleaning, making like an official scrap bag and things like that, and I kind of noticed that there was a lot of fabrics that fit a sort of like whimsical, cottagey, a lot of, you know, like bees and like gingham and floral and just kind of like fun cottagecore types of fabrics, and I just have a lot of them in my collection, from picking them up to make projects for other people, or I don't know, just things I've accumulated over time. Some of these fabrics are actually like really special because they're from my husband's grandma. Shout out Mom, she watches my videos, love her. Yeah, there's some special fabrics in here from her, and I've just been patchworking. I kind of had this thought while I was organizing my fabric, let me pull all of the fabrics that evoke a like whimsical cottagecore, like naturey, a lot of neutrals actually, but you know, earth tones, and just like feel inspired from my fabric collection, because to be honest, most of these prints in this sort of color palette is not what I typically wear or have in my house. It's more like, it's just stuff I've accumulated. I don't know, I've just accumulated a lot of like these types of prints and fabrics over time, and I have little scraps of them, and I just like did not know what to do with them. So the best thing to do when you have so many scraps is to make a patchwork quilt. So that's what I'm doing. I did already start, as you can see. I have a pretty good sized piece already. I'll just kind of show you guys the overview of what's in here so far. So this you might recognize, that's my lounge lizard fabric. So I had a little bit left over of that from my husband's grandma. And then pine cones that I used for like some Christmas projects, more gingham. This big bee and honey thing was actually a tea towel that I had that I just like couldn't get to work in my kitchen, but looks so cute in the little cottagecore scape. Some little frogs. These small scale floral prints are some fat quarters that Mom gave me. And then I have a big cow print patch. This is a little ant gingham print that y'all will see. I'm actually working on a quilted jacket of this, but I had some scraps of that and it fit the vibe. This is like a little fungusy brown situation. So that's what we have going on so far. So you can just kind of tell like the vibe of the quilt. And this is my first time doing patchwork where I just literally start by putting two together and I just build and build and build and kind of just work my way out. And let me tell you guys, I am obsessed with this method of quilting, or I guess of patchworking. It's not quilting yet, but I'm obsessed with the method of just deciding in the moment like the way that I like the way that these fabrics sit against each other. And it's really just like patchworking off of vibes and off of like the size of the fabric that you have. Here's a little strip I'm working on now that's like some mushrooms from like a mushroom canvas thing I made. I think I made like pot holders and a few things out of this, but that was definitely fitting the vibe. And then some gingham and some bees, and it's just really, really fun. I'm having a really good time. I have used probably about half of the stash that I have, and my goal is to just make a no bigger than a twin, but a little bit bigger than like my Halloween quilt, which was like a lap blanket size, like bigger than a baby blanket, but not like a full human blanket. So I want this one to be like a full twin quilt. We actually are getting a twin daybed soon, so this would be so cute on a daybed. Also the daybed's yellow, which is just like, will be so cute. This here is the fabric I'm gonna use for the back. It's just like a nice mustardy yellow with little like cross stitch type of like little X's all over it. I thought that yellow would be a really, really cool backing fabric for this sort of color palette. Hopefully this sort of whimsical scrap quilt is inspiring to you guys, and I don't know, I found it to be like so fun to go through my fabric stash and just pick scraps and small pieces of fabric that really fit a vibe that maybe isn't like what I normally go for with my projects, but it's cool to be able to use things and appreciate them, and like, I don't know, I just like really love the way it's turning out, and it's like a really cozy and fun project. This is one of my favorite fabrics in the bunch from Mom. It just like reminds me of her house and I love it. So I'm putting several pieces of this in the quilt. I actually made her an apron for Christmas last year, and that wasn't last year, that was 2 years ago. Oh my gosh, time flies. So 2 years ago I made her an apron, and I used this fabric that she gave me to line it. So half of it was like a reversible apron. So half of it was this fabric, but I still had a ton left, but it was in like weird shapes and I didn't know what to do with it. Perfect is a patchwork quilt. I'm so excited. So like literally I have like every little piece of it. But most of the ginghams, this little blue check, which I've used some of this already too. A lot of these I have, like this was the lounge lizard fabric. I made an oven mitt with this. So I just have like used a lot of the fabric she gave me, but I'm so happy to be able to put it in a quilt that I'll have forever. Some of the other prints that I have, just this like, this is a flannel actually, but I kind of love when scrap quilts, does anyone else do this? Just like when they're holding fabric, they just like let their body hold it. I love quilts that have like a mixture of sort of textures in the fabric, and that's why I love using like scraps and either secondhand or like from, you know, things you've thrifted or gotten at estate sales or like family members have given you. It all just has like a different texture to it, and I just find that to be like so fun for a quilt. So I love that. This little strawberry flower print. Like, I love this print. I think it's cute, but it's just not like something I would turn into a garment, you know? So I think this is like the perfect use for it. Sorry if the hot iron facing you is alarming. I don't want this tea towel to be like the center of the quilt. I don't want it to feel like it's like the purpose of the quilt. I just want it to be a part of it. So I think what I'm gonna do is work out this way and up and let that tea towel sit sort of in the bottom corner of the quilt. So I kind of just like line them up with, you know, what I think would be the right seam allowance to see like, is it gonna actually be the right length once I sew it together? And I always patchwork with a 1/4 inch. I don't know what, I think that's common for quilting, 1/4 inch. I kind of just lay it out and I think, okay, it needs to be about this long. And that looks like it's gonna be perfect with like a little trim. So now I did just think about the fact that these mushrooms are gonna be horizontal. If I do that, I might actually like that, but it would be a choice. Okay, no, I don't actually like that. So we're gonna go, down the long side instead. So I need a good few more pieces on here. I do not use a rotary cutter and a mat for this because I don't know, it's just less fun. It's less fun. This might alarm some people. I just take scissors and I kind of just hack job it until I feel like it's the right size and shape that I want, which for this quilt is just squares and rectangles. Quilting has like a lot of rules and I just follow like literally none of them. I just do what I want to do. And I think patchwork is so fun because it's that freeform energy. But that's one of the cool things about quilting. I think there's a misconception with quilting that it has to be like precise. Some of the coolest and best quilts are like crazy looking. And some of my favorite quilts look like if you put that shit in the washing machine, it would come out as like a ball of shreds. Like I just love like crazy quilts. So I have like a Pinterest board that's like experimental quilting, and I just put like all of these insane quilts in there. So hopefully my quilting skills evolve over time and I can make a bunch of really cool, like funky ass quilts. So I've got them all clipped together just so I don't have to sit down and stand up like a million times. Also, the chaos that is my table, yeah, that's patchworking, baby. Do I not have a bobbin thread? I think I maybe literally clocked it as it was happening. Holy shit. I literally clocked it as it's happening. That's never happened to me. I mean, I'm not like excited that that happened, but that is way better than the alternative, which is I just keep on sewing. I think it's common for people to press quilting seams open. I personally like to take the strategy of like, especially when I'm working with many different fabrics of different types and like textures, I let the fabric kind of tell me which way it wants to go, because some of these like thinner ginghams are really thin and they won't want to fight with like a thicker quilting cotton. So I just kind of go off of vibes. I've never had any real problems with like this simple of patchwork. You don't have that many seams going at once. Or like here on the seam, this is like the selvage of this fabric and it's got that like thicker canvasy feel. So that wants to, even though this gingham's a little lighter than this cotton, it wants to fight it. So I just let each seam kind of tell me how it wants to be. And then after the ironing step, we can see if I accurately got the size or if we need to trim it down or add a piece to it. I love the variety. Like I really love when quilts have like thinner pieces, smaller pieces, bigger pieces. Like I love the chaos.
Yelling this Fred. Whose name is Fred? Olivia Lux. Yeah, that doesn't match.
I have to turn on the camera to see if I'm gonna make it with this much left and that much thread. I'm paranoid. Help. Oh my god. Oh my god, it's like it's like a hair on there. Unfucking believable. Oh my god.
You can't do it. Don't stop. She did not give a fuck. She was just like, I look like an egg, and I'm gonna talk like this.
Into the, again, like world of cardigans, because I would get a ton of wear out of them. On one hand, was this a fail for me? Yes. Was it a win for Penny? Yes. Penny is Nate's daughter. It was very surprising that when I said, hey, do you want this roll? She wore it, she left for the weekend, and she took it with her over the weekend, and just this thing totally unwrong.
There's a little community out here, you know, people from the South kind of stay together, and it's not just people from the South, it's...
Okay, it's the next day now, and I was cuddling with the quilt last night because it is done. So I'm gonna do my best to show you guys the quilt, but it is quite large. It ended up being like a little bit more of a square than I was intending, but the binding turned out really cute. The quilt pattern that I decided to go with was just from the heart and it's literally just like a grid of squiggle lines. So I just did squiggle quilting vertically. I didn't measure anything, I just kind of guessed and it worked out. And then I did it the other direction and made like a grid pattern. So a fun fact about the quilt is that it took exactly one spool of thread, like start to finish. I opened a brand new spool of thread. Quilting this entire thing took the entire spool, which was like, has never happened to me in a project, so I was shook. So you can see how the patches turned out. Love this big frog patch. I think the tea towel part turned out so cute once it got quilted. And overall, I'm just super happy with it. This quilt just looks and feels like something that would be in your grandma's house. And because this does have mom's fabric in it, it's super special. And it just feels super cozy and like a really great, I don't want to say like beater quilt, but it's a quilt that we will probably just keep on our couch and use pretty heavily. And then when we do eventually get our day bed, maybe I'll throw it on that. I seriously had so much fun making this. I would highly encourage you guys to like go into your stash and just be like, you know, what can I pull together here to like create some kind of wacky theme, even if you're like combining two crazy things. I just feel like making these like fabric stash quilts is just a fun way to like get through the fabric that you like want to use and love, but you don't have like a use for, or like your pieces are so small. And I don't know, there's a lot of memories in this quilt too, just because like I bought this frog fabric to make my friends Caitlin and Macy little frog pillows. I got some of these strawberry prints to make gifts for other friends, pieces of fabric from family members, and this fabric that peeks in a few times in the quilt that's like this little garden fabric. I bought this fabric to make aprons for the gardeners in my family, so I think that's really sweet. It's just a really special quilt, but at the same time it was just not a stressful project. It was just like putting all my fabric together, quilting it with just like vibes, not taking anything too seriously. The only thing I measured making this quilt was like the perimeter, because I needed to know how much binding. But other than that, I did not really measure a thing. A really truly like chill mood quilt. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Give this video a like, subscribe if you want to stick around. I'm obsessed with quilting right now, so more quilting to come, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!